Booyakasha. Okay, gents, how to travel like a grown man. Recently, I was going through this myself. I've got a trip coming up and I decided and realized that I was sick of wearing the same bullshit fucking clothes to the airport. And so I wanted to elevate my look, which got me thinking about what that is, how to travel like a grown man, okay? And I thought I'd put together this presentation for you chaps to educate you on how to actually travel like a grown man, okay? And I'm talking about not getting through the airport and security and all that sort of stuff, because I feel like you should know how to fucking do that. You're a man. I'm talking about like how to dress, how to pack, these sorts of things, right? And understanding fabrics and fabric compositions and what you should actually wear rocking up to an airport. Because the trend today, which I fucking hate, is like the whole sweater hoodie thing, and you all just look fucking stupid, all right? So I'm just going to tell you that right now. So bear with me while I get my points up. Now, by the end of this, you will know how to step off a 14-hour flight looking like you are in control, okay? Not like you have been through a war. That's what I'm trying to demonstrate to you fellas, right? I want you to look composed. I want you to feel comfortable and still look like yourself, okay? This comes from my own struggle, as I just mentioned, right? Now, I'm a pretty muscular fucking dude, as you can tell, mate, like, fucking jacked up. And so what does that mean? It means I sweat, okay? It means I run hot, right? There's the sweating, the creasing, the arriving somewhere feeling and looking like a bit of a fucking train wreck, okay? It sent me down a rabbit hole working out what to actually travel in. And what I found changes everything. We are going to cover the fabric that does the work, what to wear head to toe, the shoes, how to pack, and the small kit that saves you on the other end. 5 decisions and you never travel like a wreck again. Picture the baggage carousel after a long haul flight, okay? 2 men standing there waiting for the same bags off the same plane. One of them looks like he lost a fight with some dude. His hoodie is stuck to his back with sweat, okay? His joggers are creased to fuck. His hair is flat. His face is gray. He's shuffling along in his slides like he aged 10 years in the air, okay? Now, the other man looks like he could walk straight into a meeting, like my friend Tom Ford here. Composed, put together, like the flight happened to his ticket, not to him. Same plane, same 14 hours, 2 completely different men at the end. Here's what most blokes assume when they see that. They assume that the composed one turned left when he boarded, right? First class, live flatbed, hot towel, the works, okay? Money bought him the arrival, and they're wrong for most of the time. Some men, yes, they fly first class in business, and so they arrive better, right? I've watched men fall out of business class, and I want to make a note, I've watched men fall out of business class looking like death, and I've watched men come out of a packed economy row looking sharp, all right? The seat isn't what did it. What did it was a set of decisions made before either of them left the house. Here's the truth nobody tells you, and it's the whole point of this video. The wrecked man dressed down to travel, okay? He looked at a long flight and thought comfort means giving up, right? So he reached for the softest, sloppiest, cheapest thing that he owned, and he called it practical. Those fucking matching joggers, for instance, yeah? The composed man dressed to travel. He knew something that the others didn't. That comfort and looking like yourself was never a trade. You can have both. In fact, if you do it right, the stuff that keeps you looking sharp is the exact same stuff that keeps you comfortable. This isn't a video about stuffing or suffering through a long haul flight in a suit to look good. That's stupid, okay? That's the opposite of the point. This is about the grown man way to travel, okay? Where you're genuinely comfortable for every one of those 14 hours and you walk off the plane still looking like you. The tracksuit brigade have got it completely backwards, and by the end of this, you'll never pack like them again, hopefully. If you do, then fucking follow a different channel, pal. It starts with understanding why travel wrecks you in the first place, because it's not really your fault. The decks are stacked against you, right? The second you board the plane. Let's sort out why travel actually destroys how you look, because once you understand the problem, the fix becomes obvious, right? And here's the first thing to get straight. It's mostly not your fault. The environment you're sitting in for 14 hours is actively working against you. And if you're wearing the wrong cloth on top of that, you've got no chance. You're fighting a losing battle you didn't know you'd started. Let's start with the air. A plane cabin is bone dry, drier than most deserts, and it's kept cold, okay? So for hours, you're sitting in cold, dry air that's pulling the moisture out of your skin, right? Then the plane lands and the doors open and you step into a jet bridge and a terminal that's often hot and humid, especially somewhere like Dubai. If you've flown international to Dubai from Australia, it's a 14-hour flight, which I do regularly, and same if you're coming from the US, 14, 16-hour flight. You walk outside, especially in the summer heat, and it punches you in the face, okay? Now, and sometimes taxis have heating on depending on where you land. Your body is getting yanked from cold to hot to cold over and over again across a whole day. That swing is the enemy. It's what makes you sweat, then chill, then sweat again, and it's brutal on both you and your clothes, okay? Now, add the wrong cloth and watch it get worse. Most men travel in cheap synthetic gear, a polyester hoodie, joggers with plastic in the blend, because they think soft equals comfortable. Synthetic does 3 terrible things on a flight, right? It traps heat, so when the terminal turns hot, you're cooking. It holds onto damp, so once you've sweated, you stay wet and clammy for hours, right? And it holds a crease and a smell, so you arrive looking slept in and feeling worse, okay? The very fabric they picked for comfort is the thing making them miserable. They chose their own punishment and called it practical, okay? And this is where the tracksuit and the Slides Brigade have got it exactly backwards. They looked at the long flight correctly. They correctly worked out that they wanted to be comfortable, and then they reached for the worst possible tool for the job. They think roughing it, dressing like they're going to the gym or the sofa is the only route to comfort. It isn't, okay? They've misdiagnosed the whole problem. The answer to a hot, sweaty, creased flight was never softer, sloppier, cheap cloth. The answer is smarter cloth. Cloth that actually handles the temperature swings and moves the sweat away instead of trapping it, okay? That's the next slide, and it's the thing that changes everything, okay? So if cheap synthetic is the problem, what's the answer? It's one specific fabric, and once you know it, you'll never travel in anything else. It's called Fresco, okay? It's a high twist wool, and it's the single best thing a man who runs hot can put on his body for a long flight. Trust me, I know, okay? I run hot. Stay with me because I know what you're thinking. Wool, right? On a plane in the heat, you think wool means a thick winter jumper that'll cook you alive. This is a completely different animal, and understanding why is the whole game, right? And here's a bit of history that tells you everything. Fresco was invented in England over 100 years ago, back in 1907, for exactly this problem. British men were being posted out to the hottest corners of the world. Think India, Africa, the tropics, etc. Lo and behold, the Commonwealth owned half the world at the time. And they were expected to stay sharply dressed in brutal heat. So the mills built a wool that could take it. This is a fabric that was engineered from day one to keep a man looking composed in conditions that would wreck anyone else, okay? It's been solving your exact problem for over a century. You're just the latest man to find out about it. Here's what makes it work. Fresco is woven from a yarn that's been twisted very tightly, high twist, and then woven with tiny gaps in it as an open weave. Hold it up to any light and you can almost see through it, right? That open structure is the trick. It lets air move through the cloth instead of trapping it against you. So your body heat and your sweat have somewhere to go. It breathes like an open window. On top of that, wool naturally handles moisture. It pulls sweat away from your skin and lets it evaporate instead of sitting there wet like synthetic does. So when that cabin swings from cold to hot to cold, Fresco just quietly regulates. High twist tropical wool, Fresco wool, okay? It keeps you level while everyone around you is either freezing or cooking, right? And here's the part that solves your other travel nightmare, the creasing. That same high twist yarn is springy. It's got memory. When you sit on it for 14 hours and then stand up, it bounces back instead of holding the crease, okay? If you sit in cheap cotton or linen for that long and you stand up looking like a bin bag, okay, or a paper bag, right? But if you stand up in Fresco, it falls back into shape like nothing happened, okay? So you get a breathability and a crease resistance in one cloth. That's not a coincidence. It's the same high twist weave doing both jobs at once, okay? This is the fabric doing the work exactly like I promised it would at the start. It's the same lesson as everything I teach. Weight and weave decide how a cloth behaves. And here the weave is doing the heavy lifting, okay? A light, open, high twist weave is your best friend on a plane. And Fresco is the king of that category. Now, it doesn't have to be a full suit, so don't fucking panic. It's most commonly a pair of trousers, and a good pair of Fresco trousers is the foundation of an entire travel uniform we're about to build, okay? But the principle travels wider than just Fresco. Any high twist, breathable, springy cloth is working with you instead of against you, okay? But cheap, dense, synthetic works against you. Once you understand that one idea, you can read any garment and know whether it'll survive a flight or betray you at the carousel, okay? And the next slide, I'm gonna turn this into a full outfit that you can actually copy. So the travel uniform, let's build the actual outfit, right? Because knowing Fresco is great, but you need to know what the whole kit looks like from the neck down. And before I kind of touch on that, you need to quiz your tailor or whoever it is that you're buying that particular fabric from heavily, right? Because I've spoke to 3 tailors here looking for high twist tropical wool, and 3 of them didn't know what I was talking about, okay? Suit Supply sell those trousers, but I think that it's quite a popular fabric and it sells out quite quickly, right? Now, the good news is it is a uniform, okay? So you build it once, you understand why each piece is there, and then you never stand in front of your wardrobe stressing about what to travel in again, okay? You just reach for the system. That's what a grown man does. He's got a formula and he trusts it. Start at the legs because that's your foundation. A pair of Fresco or high twist wool trousers in a dark color. That's the brief, okay? Fresco or high twist tropical wool, that's what they call it. In a dark color. Dark for a reason, okay? It hides the odd mark, a spilled coffee, whatever the day throws at you, and it reads sharper than a pal pear that shows everything, okay? These are your breathable, spring back, sit for 14 hours and still look sharp trousers, okay? This one piece does more for you than anything else you'll wear, and it's why we spend a whole slide on the fabric, right? Get the trousers right and you're most of the way there. Now the layer on top, and this is where the temperature swings get handled, right? You don't want one heavy thing. You want layers you can add and shed as the cabin and terminal flight or fight over the thermostat, I should say, all right? So underneath you've got a good tee. And the fabric matters here too. A cotton merino blend in a dark tone, right? The merino kills odor, okay? So you're not stewing over a long flight, and dark hides any sweat that does come through. Over that, something with a bit of structure, but still breathable, okay? I find knit or an overshirt, something that holds its shape and doesn't crumple into a rag the second you sit down, okay? The layer you can take off when the terminal turns hot and pull back on when the cabin turns cold. You're never stuck. You're always one adjustment away from comfortable, yeah? And here's the whole point of building it this way. Every single piece is earning its place twice. Once for comfort and once for how it looks. Because these were never a trade. The Fresco trouser is comfortable and sharp. The merino tee is fresh and clean looking. The structured layer regulates you and pulls the whole outfit together. You end up looking deliberate, put together, like a man who thought about it, and you're more comfortable than the bloke melting in his hoodie 2 seats down. That's the proof of everything I promised at the start. You are not suffering for this. You're winning on both accounts at once. The next is the bit almost every man gets wrong, which is the shoes. The shoes you travel in. This is one almost every man gets wrong in one of 2 directions, okay? He either goes full slob with shitty trainers or fucking, God forbid, he goes slides and socks, okay? Because he's chasing comfort and think that that's the only way to get it, all right? Or he goes too far the other way, proper lace-up leather shoes that are a nightmare at security and an agony when his feet swell at altitude, okay? There's a middle path, and it's the grown man answer. First, understand what's actually happening to your feet up there. When you fly, your feet swell up. It's real, it's the pressure and the sitting still for hours. It means that the shoe that fit perfectly at the gate is tight and horrible by hour 8. It needs a bit of give and a bit of room, something that doesn't strangle your foot when it puffs up. Now, that's not an excuse to wear slides, okay? We're moving away from slides, right? It's a reason to choose the shoe intelligently instead of just grabbing the comfiest looking thing by the door, right? Here's the sweet spot, a slip-on, but a proper one, okay? A grown-up shoe with no laces, so you're in and out of security in seconds with no fumbling while the queues pile up behind you. And it slides off easy on the plane when you want to relax. But it's a real shoe. Clean lines, decent leather or suede, something a man wears, not something a teenager wears to a beach, okay? I'm talking a good loafer, a clean slip-on, that category, right? Woven, in my opinion, is best, okay? It handles the swelling, it handles security, it handles the plane, and then, and this is the whole point, it walks off the flight straight into wherever you're going and still looks the part. One shoe, door to destination, no compromise, right? And nothing carries a custom trouser like a loafer does. That clean break on the hem, sitting over a proper shoe is the whole look, landing at once, yeah? Woven loafers, that's the one. Now, I'm not going to leave you guessing, so here's one at each end of the money scale, right? At the affordable end, you've got GH, okay? Bass Wijan, okay? It's the original penny loafer. It's where the whole style comes from. It'll get you started without much outlay. In the middle, you've got Berwick, 1707, a Spanish maker doing proper Goodyear welted shoes you can resole and keep for years. The value pick, the men who know shoes quality rate. And at the top, you've got Crockett and Jones out of Northampton in England, who've just released a shoe literally called the Travel Loafer, right? Soft calf, flexible sole, no break-in, built for exactly this, okay? When a 150-year-old English shoemaker builds a loafer specifically for getting through an airport, you know this whole idea isn't me being clever, right? This has been thought about. Now, have a look at those three, find the one your budget's happy with, and you're sorted for a decade. Because that's the difference between the two kinds of comfort we keep coming back to, right? Slides are the give up version of comfort. The version that says, I don't care how I look, I just want this to be over. A good slip-on is the grown man's version. The version that says, I can be completely comfortable and still look like I got myself together. Same goal, comfort, two completely different men choosing two completely different tools, okay? And when you're standing at that carousel at the end, one of them looks like he's been on a holiday from himself, and the other looks like he's the same sharp man who got on the plane, right? Now, let's talk about how you pack, because the fabric only saves you if you carry it properly, okay? You've got the right cloth now on your body and the right shoes on your feet. Now the bag, because how you pack is the difference between arriving with your kit intact and arriving with everything you own crushed into a ball of creases. Here's the mindset shift that changes everything, right? A grown man doesn't pack everything he might need. He packs the right things deliberately. He trusts the system he's built. Packing badly is a sign of a man who hasn't thought it through. Packing light and smart is a sign of a man who has. You start with your single biggest decision and just carry on. Okay, wherever you humanly can, travel with one bag that goes in the cabin with you, okay? This isn't about being cheap or hardcore, it's about control. If your stuff never gets lost, you walk straight off the plane. Well, your stuff will never get lost. You walk straight off the plane and out of the airport while other men stand at the carousel we keep talking about, okay? And you're forced to be disciplined about what earns its place. The bag being small is a feature, not a limit. It stops you dragging half your wardrobe around the world to wear none of it. One good bag, packed well, is the mark of a man who travels a lot and has worked out what actually matters. Now, the actual packing, and this is where the fabric lesson pays you back a second time. Remember those high twist, springy clothes we talked about? The ones that resist creasing and bounce back into shape? They're as good as in the bag as they are on your body, okay? The whole system reinforces itself. Roll the things that like being rolled, your tees, your knits. It saves space and it dodges hard folded lines, okay? Lay your tailor pieces flat or fold them along their natural seams so any crease falls where it's meant to, okay? And here's the quiet luxury of choosing good cloth in the first place. A fresco trouser or a high twist jacket comes out of that bag after 14 hours and falls back into shape almost on its own. Cheap fabric would have arrived looking like a disaster. Good fabric forgives you, okay? That's the whole point I keep hammering. The right cloth does the work. Build yourself a uniform for the whole trip, not just the flight. So packing stops being a stressful guessing game. When your clothes all share a color story, a few neutrals that all work together, everything mixes with everything and you pack less because each piece does more job. 3 tops and 2 trousers that all go together beat 7 random things that don't, okay? This is the grown man secret to the small bag. It's not about squeezing more in, it's about needing less because you chose well. You end up with a bag that you can lift with one hand, a wardrobe for the whole trip, and 0 morning stress about what goes with that, okay? That's not deprivation. That's a man who's got it sorted and it feeds straight into the last few things that save you on a long haul, which is where we're going next. And this is the kit that saves you. It's the last piece before we bring it all together. A small kit that keeps you human across a long flight and a load of time zones. And let me be straight with you, this is the stuff nobody thinks about until they're 11 hours in, feeling like a swamp, catching sight of themselves in a toilet mirror and getting a fright. A grown man plans for that hour before it happens. The difference between a man who endures a flight and a man who manages one is a tiny bit of kit and a tiny bit of discipline. Here's the core idea, and it's simple. A long flight dries you out and grinds you down, so you fight back in small, deliberate moves, right? The cabin air pulls moisture out of your skin. So a bit of moisturizer and a lip balm stop you arriving looking like a dried out crusty fucker, okay? You're sat in recycled air with 300 people, so staying clean and fresh isn't vanity, it's basic self-respect. None of this is complicated. It's a handful of small things in a bag that take up no room and change how you feel and look at each other or at the other end completely. Most men pack for the destination and completely forget about surviving the journey. You're gonna do both. Here's the move that separates the men from the boys on a long haul flight, all right? About an hour before you land, you go and reset, all right? And even an hour and a half, and I say that because if you do it any later, you will fucking be in a lineup with everyone else getting their last toilet run in and it'll be gross. Freshen up, sort your hair out, splash your face, brush your teeth, a fresh application of whatever keeps you smelling like a person, okay? You get off that plane looking and feeling like you're starting the day, not ending a 14-hour ordeal, okay? While everyone else shuffles out grey and rumpled, you walk out looking like you've got somewhere to be and you're glad to be there. That 1 10-minute reset before landing is the highest value habit in this entire video, okay? And it costs you nothing but a bit of forethought. And this is really the whole philosophy of the video in a miniature, okay? It was never about money or a fancy seat. It's about giving a damn and thinking one step ahead. The man who moisturizes, who packs the small kit, who resets before landing, he's not being fussy or precious. He's treating himself like he matters, like the asset that he is, because you are the asset. And the asset doesn't get shipped around the world like a piece of freight and dumped at the other end of in whatever state it lands in, okay? You look after it. You arrive ready, okay? That's what all of this has been building towards. And in the last slide, I'll pull the whole thing together into the system you actually walk out the door with, okay? So let's bring this whole thing home. Everything we've covered adds up to one simple idea, and it's the idea I want you to walk away with. You do not need a lie flat seat and a business class ticket, although it's fucking amazing and you should be striving towards that, or a fat wallet to arrive well. You need a system, okay? The right cloth, a repeatable uniform, the right shoes, a disciplined bag, and a bit of forethought. That's it. That's the whole game, and every part of it is available to any man who decides to give a damn, whatever he paid for his seat, okay? Let's run it back one more time so it's locked in. It starts with the fabric, because the fabric does the work. Fresco and high twist cloths that breathe through the temperature swings and spring back instead of creasing. Then the uniform built on top of it, the dark trouser, the layers you add and shed, the merino tee that keeps you fresh, okay? Then the shoes, a proper slip-on loafer that handles security, woven ideally, because woven allows airflow. It handles the swollen feet as well, because it expands, and still looks the part when you land. Then you got the bag, one carry-on, packed with cloth that forgives you, and the color story that all works together, okay? And finally, the kit, the small things, and the 10-minute reset before you land, okay? 5 decisions. Make them once and you never travel like a wreck again. Now, let's go back to the baggage carousel from the very start. You got 2 men, same flight, same 14 hours, okay? Except now you understand exactly why they arrived so differently, and you know precisely which one you're going to be. It was never about the money. The wrecked man didn't lose because he flew economy. He lost because he dressed down to travel, reaching for the sloppiest thing he owned, and he called it comfort. The composed man won because he understood that comfort and looking like himself were never a trade or a trade-off, and he built a system around that truth. Same plane, 2 completely different men, all right? The only difference was knowing how. And that's the thing to carry out of here, well beyond travel. A grown man doesn't just let things happen to him and arrive at the other end in whatever state the world left him. He thinks ahead. He looks after himself, and he shows up ready because he knows he's worth the effort, okay? You are the asset. I keep banging this in. You're the asset, and the asset does not get shipped around the world like fucking cargo and dumped at the door. He arrives sharp, comfortable, and completely in control, right? Looking exactly like the man who set out. So next time you fly, don't just survive it. Arrive like you meant to, okay? Because now you know how. So that's it, gents. Get some, boys.